The Fastest Horse in the West. Story by Juanita Havill. Illustrations by Judy Love. Chapter 1. Quarters for a Horse. Wow, I'm flying, Vernon imagined as he stacked and restacked the piles of quarters on the floor beside his bed. He pictured himself on Dusty the Palomino, passing the finish line far ahead of the other riders. Only Dusty wasn't old like in real life. He was in his prime and running his heart out. Vernon's dad, mom, older brother Ralph, and younger brother Sanford were cheering them on. His buddies, Sam, Ted, and Marcus, were looking at one another in amazement. Everyone was patting Dusty's owner, Mr. Ramsey, on the back, and, Vernie, come on! We're going to Mr. Ramsey's house." Vernon snapped out of his daydream and looked up as Sanford rushed into their room. Sanford stopped short with a look of awe when he saw the stacks of quarters. "Where did all that money come from, Vernie?" Sanford asked. "Don't you remember? These are the quarters Mr. Ramsey pays me for helping with Dusty. I told you before, I'm saving them to buy a horse." Sometimes Sanford remembered what Vernon told him, and sometimes he didn't. That's because he didn't always understand what Vernon meant. He was too young. Sanford was only 4 years old, and sometimes he was a pain to his older brothers. But Vernon and Ralph still tried to play with him and include him in their activities. Sanford reached out toward the coins, trying to pick one up. Instead, he jostled Vernon's towers of quarters, and 2 of them toppled. "I'm sorry, Vernie," Sanford murmured as he tried to pile the quarters up again. "It's all right," said Vernon. "I've already counted them. 120 quarters. I have $30 now, and I can tell you, Sanford, that's not enough to buy a horse." "You aren't going to buy a horse?" Sanford squinted his dark blue eyes the way he always did when he was trying to figure out something. "I'm going to buy a horse, just not today or tomorrow, not until I have a whole bunch more quarters." "How many quarters, Vernie?" "At least 1,000. Sanford's eyes widened and his mouth dropped open. He had never even heard of anyone having that much money. "Here, you can help me put them back in my money can," Vernon suggested, setting the empty coffee tin between them. One by one, Sanford picked up the quarters and put them in the tin. He grinned at the resulting clink, clink, clink. Vernon wasn't sure he had done the arithmetic right, but he knew he needed a lot more than $30 worth of quarters to buy a horse. Mr. Ramsey paid him $1/4 a week to shovel out Dusty's stall. That made only $1 a month and only $12 a year. If he wanted to buy a horse before he was 30, he would have to figure out another way to earn money. Vernon scooped up the quarters and poured them into his tin. Then he waited for Sanford to drop in the last one. "Okay, Sanford, let's go." Mom, Dad, Sanford, Vern, and Ralph walked to Mr. Ramsey's along a path from their house. The Jackson family's house was on his property, and Dad farmed part of the land for him. They had lived on Mr. Ramsey's farm ever since Dad had to sell theirs 6 years ago. Vernon and his family enjoyed sitting in front of the big radio set, listening to music and news broadcasts in Mr. Ramsey's living room. What Vernon liked most were the spooky plays. Tonight, though, they were going to listen to Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States. "President Roosevelt will be talking about the escalating war in Europe," Mom said to Dad as they walked along the path. "I expect he will," Dad said. "I hear it's getting worse, and he wants us to send soldiers." Mom sighed. "I don't like that Hitler fellow. But it seems to me we've got enough to worry about over here without rounding up our soldiers to fight Hitler and the Germans in Europe." "Hal Pearson says he's going to sign up and be a soldier," Ralph said. "Hal's 18, so I suppose he can make up his own mind," Dad said. "But he's needed on the farm. His father has the rheumatism so bad, some days he can hardly walk." "I'll be 18 in a few months," Ralph said quietly. Mom paused, putting her hand over her mouth and looking faint. Dad looked away. Vernon stared at his brother quizzically. He wanted to ask him a million questions, but he realized this wasn't the time. Only Sanford seemed unaware.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?